Hello, BookTube. I'm Peg. Welcome back to my channel. I've been away for a while. I've been traveling a lot, and but I've still been reading a lot and even knitting, which I'll talk about at the end because I know everybody's not excited to hear about my knitting. But anyway, I just love all the Vlogmas videos that you all are making and thought I better get back in the swing of making videos. Not that I'd make one every day. I tried last year and only lasted 4 days. I just got tired of combing my hair every day to make a video. Anyway, okay, so I have lots to catch up on. Book Prize. The Book Prize season isn't all over in other parts of the world and some of my favorite places. There have been a couple Canadian prizes that I'll talk about probably next week that I'm finishing up the reading for. And just tomorrow, there's going to be the Australian Prime Minister Prize. They have it in several award, I guess it's called. They have it in several different categories, but of course my favorite category is the fiction category. And there's 5 books, and 2 of them I have. One of them's Peter Carey's A Long Way From Home. This is the book depository version, which I have, but I can't find in my bookcase. My bookcases are really out of control. I really need to do something. Oh well. Okay, same old problem there. Anyway, that one's up. And Richard Flanagan's First Person is up. And my favorite, the one I kind of hope wins, is a book that's very Australian. Where is it? Let's see. Okay, come on. It's called Taboo, and I don't know if you can see this, but the lettering's made out of natural type things, stones and feathers, and I think it's very Australian. They go into some people look back into some land that was at one time taboo and has a lot of atmosphere and everything. Now, this has been up for several awards in Australia, and I have not been able to get a copy. But I think now Book Depository does have a copy, and I'm sure they'll have copies if it wins. Whoops. So I am hoping Taboo wins because I want to read it, and it sounds just really different and interesting. Now I've got things in a big mess. Okay, so the next thing that I consider a prize, it's a daily prize that we get in December, is Steve Donoghue and his Best of the Year list. I didn't realize, but he started on December 1st putting out different Best of the Year lists. I know I knew I followed it last year, but I didn't realize. I mean, I guess he's going to do all 25 days. I know he'll end with fiction. That's what everybody wants to hear. But you can find it on his open letter review. Just Google it or anything if you're not familiar with it. But he started out with 1st of December with republished again with older works that have gotten a new publication. And then he had children's books on the 2nd. And then yesterday he had translations and new translations. It's not like the translation prizes because they have to be with most of them with living authors and things that are just new books. But I happen to have 2 of the books that are on his list of best translations for the year. And he makes a point of saying that these are really not for the translating value, since he can't read all the foreign languages they're translated from, but they're more for just being very good books in the translations. And this is one that's a combination of 5 different novels. I guess most of them have been already in print, but this is the first time they've been all together. It's Italian, about a town and the people in it. And the one that is best known is The Garden of the Musketeers, and so it's in it, but also the other 4 in the series. So I'm really looking forward to this one. It's no wonder it made his list because I got the suggestion from him during the year when he went over those. Okay, another one that he has on his list is the new translation of The Three Musketeers. This is a really readable and nice size printing, not like your old books. And so I'm anxious to get to this one. It's thick, a tome. But last year on his list, which I found out from him, was a sequel to the Three Musketeers. This is a sequel that was just translated for the first time. I mean, it was in his list last year, so I guess it was done in 2016. And there was another sequel that's been around for a while, but it was called 20 Years Later. So it was 20 years after the first one. This one takes place right after. And as I said, it's just the first time it's ever been translated or available. So I kind of saved it so I could read the first one first, the Three Musketeers first, and then this one. Okay, now let's see. The next, let me catch you up on the Goldsmiths Prize. Now, the Goldsmiths Prize was awarded, I guess, last month sometime, and I used to say it was for the best experimental novel, but there was a lot of talk during the prize season, especially an interesting article by our own Mark Nash, our own author here on BookTube, about the term experimental and how it really doesn't apply to works, because experiment is something you do for the first time, and he's called an experimental author himself, but he admits that you're bettering different techniques. So you should say unconventional novel, we've decided. So anyway, I love the winner of this. Some people weren't too happy with it, but it's The Long Take by Robin Robertson, which I believe was also on the Booker list. Anyway, it's amazing. It's written by a Scotsman, man from Scotland, but it is wonderful, evocative, kind of a poem, very lyrical. It's written a little bit like poetry, but it doesn't, I mean, you don't have to like concentrate like you would on poetry. And it's a wonderfully evocative, you know, the thing I like best is mood, setting, and atmosphere of the story, and this has it galore. It takes place in the 1940s, right after World War II, and it involves a man who comes back. Actually, he's from Canada, but he can't for some reason go back to where he lives there, so he kind of travels through some of the large cities in the U.S., New York and Los Angeles, and ends up in San Francisco. And it's talking about the cities and the flavor of the cities, and it's very what you would call noir. It's all dark and some great pictures, all in black and white. There's, I believe, Grand Central Station with the light coming through when he was in New York. And I'm a sucker for California type atmosphere, noir. I love the hard-boiled books and stuff. So this was right down my alley, and I loved it. I kind of like reading it slowly, because each paragraph, each page just seemed to have so much, so beautiful language in it. So I was real pleased with the winner there. Okay, that leads me on to what I was going to say about talking about books about California that show the atmosphere. I lived in California during my young adult life, and I don't think I'd really like to live there anymore, but it sure makes you have a feeling for the California vibe. And I just happened to read this book called The Feral Detective by Jonathan Lethem, and it actually is a play on one of the hard-boiled type mysteries. Before I go on with it, it takes place in California, starts with a young woman coming to a seedy detective with a missing person that she wants to talk about. And what was I going to say? Jonathan Lethem is so good at this, and I found out that it's actually, this was also published this year, an annotated version of The Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler, which was the essential California noir novel. I'd like to get this copy, actually. But Jonathan Lethem really likes and admires Raymond Carver, and he wrote the foreword to this book. So this book ends up out in the desert about 40 miles east of Los Angeles, and Jonathan Letham's starts there, and it's just got a wonderful atmosphere of the California desert, the Mojave, and the people that are living there, kind of creepy people, and I just love this book. It was a play on an older noir novel, but it was just really good and well written itself, I think. So, okay, let's see now. All right. Wait, I have one more book. That it just came out this week, and I happened to get a audio from the library, also about California. It's called Come With Me by Helen Schuman. And it takes place in contemporary times about a couple that lives in Palo Alto, which is south of San Francisco. Now, San Francisco also has its own atmosphere and vibe, and countries around there, they say the air smells like wine. And this takes place, as I said, in Palo Alto, where Stanford is, and it's part of Silicon Valley, which I love techie stories about Silicon Valley for some reason. Anyway, it's just really well done, and it's a family, and it deals with some tech startups and some people working in them, and maybe a little bit of fantasy comes in because they're kind of working on multiverses, multi-universes, and the woman, the protagonist of the story, is one there that's kind of trying out. You find out about a lot of things in her life and what could have happened, but it's not heavily fantastic. It's just a good book about families and great characters. Okay, so that's all the books there. So let's see. If you're not interested in knitting, you can turn it off now. I want to say, you guys, if you are interested in knitting, you need to watch Cheryl, my friend Cheryl from CR Flames. It's a team in Canada. She's doing a Vlogmas knitting thing where she's got these packages for a knitting project that she opens one each day and does what they say, and it is really fun to watch. So give her I'll try to remember to put her link at the bottom, but most of you probably know her. Okay, now about knitting. I love knitting, and when I started knitting, I learned as an adult, not from my grandmother like most people do. I always wanted to knit patterns that were in what they call Vogue Knitting. It's part of the Vogue franchise and fashions and everything, and they have the best but kind of hard stuff to knit. So finally I practiced, and I can do some of their patterns. Or anyway, they put out 6 issues a year. This is the spring issue, and I've tried to knit something from each issue in my style and what fits me. Now, I also want to say that some of you saw my Instagram picture. I'm going to New York in January next month for a knitting convention. Get that? People really laugh when they hear that. But it's sponsored by Vogue Knitting. It's on Times Square in a big hotel, packed with knitters and people, and they have like fashion shows, people showing their stuff. So they have contests you can enter. How long is this? Is that 13? Oh, okay. I'll talk a little bit more. They have contests you can enter if you knit stuff from their books, from their magazines. So I try to knit stuff from every magazine that they put out, and I'll show you. I'll show you what I've knitted from this one, which I'm actually wearing, but you can't see much of it. This is the spring and summer issue. Believe it or not, there's possibilities of knitting things in summer, and you always think of knitting as wool, heavy sweaters and stuff. But the one I chose to knit from that is called, it's called something about lace on the bottom shell. Now, I hate the color of this one, but anyway, you can see it's just a plain little top, and then it has this what they call knitted lace at the bottom. And so let's see. I made it quite a bit longer. I don't like little short tops like that. I like things that cover the hips. And let's where I put a picture on oh my mind is going. Instagram, but I have this finished one. You can see the lace at the bottom, and I'm wearing it today. And I'm really pleased with how it came out. I was afraid it wouldn't be big enough in the hips, so I really made it bigger, and it almost kind of flips out down at the bottom, which I think is kind of a style point, so I like that. So anyway, I'll be working on 4 other things that I'm going to knit from the other magazines before I leave, before I go to the convention in late January. So I'll keep you informed of those. So meanwhile, I've got lots of, I'm going to try to catch up on some of the book prizes I haven't talked about and some of the books I've been reading. So see you later. Happy holidays, guys. Bye.